you very much for inviting me here today. Shane is right, we do have a right to die. It's not illegal to commit suicide. And for good reason. The reason that we decriminalised suicide was that it was more harm to have it illegal than to have it legal. People were afraid to talk about their suicidal ideation. Families were left with a stigma. And we're better off with suicide being legalised. What we're now talking about is whether people who are, for whatever reason, unable to carry out their right to die themselves should be entitled to have assistance to exercise that right in a peaceful and effective way, in a way that is reliable, in a way that doesn't end up with them doing something wrong through lack of information and ending up with brain damage instead of dying, in a way that is based on what ethics should be based on, which is about minimising suffering, which is about maximising well-being, which is about balancing competing interests based on compassion and empathy and cooperation and reciprocity and fairness and justice. And whereas ethics used to be more tribal and used to be about people telling others that the creator of the universe has told them to impose this rule on you, or that you have to do something for the good of society in some sort of abstract way, we're gradually reaching a stage where our approach to human rights and our approach to ethics is based on recognising the individual autonomy of us as individual people. And that as the default, I'll just finish the point and then I'll take that, as the default that we should respect the choices of individuals to bodily autonomy and to personal autonomy, whether they choose to want to continue their life with funded palliative care until such time as they die naturally, or whether they want to take the option to avoid unnecessary suffering by dying on their own basis. I'll take your point there.
So just, you said ethics is about minimising suffering. If that's the case, then should you not tell someone, an old person who is nearing the end of their life, that they should be euthanised in order to spend resources that are spent keeping them alive on keeping, say, 3 healthy people alive?
Well, what I said is that ethics is based on a number of things. I mentioned compassion and empathy and reciprocity and cooperation and so on. I said that would have been the old approach, and it's still the approach in some parts of the world. In Western liberal democracies, we are gradually moving closer and closer to recognising that individual autonomy, as long as you're not harming others, is at the core of ethics. And as I say, because this issue, it is about choice. I want to tell you about 2 people close to me who died in recent years, who approached the issue differently. My father died at the age of 89. He died in hospital. And he died in a hospital, and as has been said here, our hospital service is underfunded, but once you're there, the staff do work really, really well, and he had the best of care. He died over a long period of time. He didn't like, he was very philosophical. He wasn't concerned about dying in some sort of metaphysical sense, but it took him some time to die, and that was distressing for our family. But we respected that was the way that he wanted to die, and that was how it happened. My wife died of cancer around the same time, a short time before that. And Anne had been diagnosed with lung cancer at a late stage. She was told that she had 6 months to live. As it happens, she lived for a year and a half. Now, Anne didn't want, she didn't want to die, but she wasn't afraid of dying. But what she wanted to avoid was unnecessary suffering. And she wanted to know that she could avoid unnecessary suffering before she died. And so she made the decision to put in place what she needed to be able to do to be able to take her life if she needed. And had she needed assistance, I had said that I would help her to do that. And from the time that decision was made, and from the time that we had the mechanism to carry that out if we needed, Anne's quality of life soared for the last year of her life. And she was able to do things that she wouldn't have been able to do with the same enjoyment had we not had that in place, because she was relieved of the burden of worrying about possibly unnecessary suffering. And this is one of the key things. Most of the people who make this decision, and this even includes people who go to make arrangements with Dignitas or whatever, most of the people who make the decision to be able to take their own life to avoid unnecessary suffering end up dying naturally anyway. Because it's not primarily about the act of dying, it's about the personal autonomy and the freedom of mind and peace of mind that you have from knowing that you have the option of avoiding unnecessary suffering if you need to. And that was what was important to Anne. It's not what was important to my father, and we respected in both cases both decisions. all that Anne had to worry about, and this is typically the case, I'm involved in a group called Right to Die Ireland, along with Tom Curran, whose partner, Mary Fleming, took a court case last year. Tom is the European director of Exit International at the moment. And of all of the people that Exit International deals with, the prime concern in practical terms of the person who wants to avail of assisted dying is not about themselves, it's about their partner. It's about worrying about whether the person who helps them is going to get prosecuted. And typically the person who is going to help them doesn't want to help them because they want their loved one to stay alive, but they're willing to do it out of love and compassion and respect. And that in fact that actually led to to inject a little bit of dark humour into the situation when Anne was dying. And everybody knew, including the authorities, because Anne and I had done a television documentary about Anne being prepared to die, and that we were going to, if we needed, we were going to. I happened to be out of the city on the day that Anne did die, and as I say, she died naturally. Her sister had come over from Scotland and was staying with her. And because I was chairing a meeting down in Cork, I had my phone off, they couldn't contact me, so a friend of ours who's a guard contacted the guards in Cork, got them to get in touch with me. They gave me a lift to the railway station. I got a train back up, and as I was coming up on the train, our friends were kind of ringing around, letting people know that Anne had died. And in a kind of a Chinese whisper sort of way, the message that got garbled into, Anne has been found dead in the house and the police have brought Michael to the station. So Anne would have appreciated that dark humour, but in an ethical society that shouldn't be funny, because in an ethical society it should be considered absurd that it would be considered that somebody would be arrested for helping a loved one to avoid suffering in accordance with their wishes at the end of their life. Because like abortion, assisted dying will continue to happen, no matter what the law says. And the law needs to change to recognise the reality that people in those situations will act in accordance with love and compassion and empathy and our own sense of morality. And in the same way as suicide has been made legal by catching up with the reality of what was happening, assisted dying is going to have to do the same thing. And as I say, we also need to respect the rights of people who want to stay alive. We do need, I agree, properly funded palliative care. But that runs in conjunction with a right that people will already exercise. Because, and it's at a minimum, whatever the grey areas, at a minimum, as already mentioned, there's one area that is absolutely clear, that there is no question ethically at all about, is that when somebody is terminally ill, and when they are clearly thinking reasonably, and when the only question is not whether they're going to die, but how they're going to die and when they're going to die, then there is no ethical reason at all, no grey area, about refusing that person the right to make their own decisions. The Supreme Court here has found that there isn't a right in the Constitution to assisted dying, but it has also found that the Oireachtas can legislate to create that right legislatively, and the government should do this. Thank you very much.